And greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, joined by our colleague Jill Savage here in just a moment. This is the Deace Group in a moment, and I am Steve Deace here on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. Also live on X as well. We've really enjoyed interacting with those folks this week as we get ready to launch here more shows on the Blaze on X as well. So that's been really a really exciting addition to our repertoire, and a really exciting addition to our show has been Jace Medical. They came on board during COVID because they saw the same things we saw. Something smells rotten in the state of Denmark here, folks. And now we have award-winning medications, like Nobel Prize award-winning medications now suddenly being deemed horse-paced and not safe. Medications that for 60 years have been available even over the counter in many countries and have saved millions of lives now suddenly have no, they aren't edifying, they don't work. But here's remdesivir that has a black box warning, and see if that'll help you. Or take Paxlovid, because if you have COVID, it was probably Paxlovid, okay? So they wanted to make sure this could never happen here. They're doing their level best to make that the case. That's why you want to get the Jace case. Get a backup of some of the most important antibiotics in all of human history, just to make sure they're not the next ones on the spirit of the age chopping block when you need them the most. But now you can also expand your Jace case as well to customize it to medications that you need. This is especially helpful for loved ones, by the way. If you have elderly loved ones on Medicare, they are completely at the mercy of the total state. So make sure they've got peace of mind to know that the meds they need, they've got backups with or backups for as well. And yes, by the way, ivermectin is available in the Jace case. You can get the Jace case right now when you go to jacemedical.com, Jase, jacemedical.com, and get a discount at the checkout when you drop my last name, Deace. Drop my last name, Deace, at jacemedical.com. Again, that's jacemedical.com. All right, next hour, it'll be time for Feedback Friday, but let's get it going with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with Issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him.
Let's deal with Hitler, okay?
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that. I mean, that is Mussolini, Hitler-like language.
Trump's affinity for Hitler was always covered under an umbrella of his stupidity.
It's a false flag.
False flag?
Yeah, false flag.
Somebody died and 2 people injured. What do you think about that?
False flag.
False flag.
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done. It almost looked real.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
Echoing Hitler's words.
Listen to this. Well, Hitler was duly elected.
Echoing the hateful rhetoric of Adolf Hitler.
I think this whole thing is staged.
You think it was staged?
Yeah.
Was it a bad thing? Would you condemn it?
Oh, that he got shot at? Of course.
Yeah, you never do that.
Of course, you don't do that.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, that's really bad. Yeah, exactly. You don't do that. Was it staged? Probably.
It echoes Hitler. That's the kind of language Hitler used in Mein Kampf.
About vermin and Hitler and Mussolini. That's a horrifying clip. That's a fascist clip.
What are your thoughts about those people? Are they foolish for believing that this is a real assassination attempt?
Yeah, a lot of people are easily fooled by Donald Trump. Yeah.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof.
If you were to continue to run and be officially nominated, what happens if you have another episode like we saw during the debate?
What happened?
Yeah, what happens if you have another performance on that level?
I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
Bavis. You mean like I'm having right now? I had a long conversation with Governor Ron DeSantis this morning on several topics privately. One of them that we addressed was Biden. And the governor was like, why would you want to continue if you're in this kind of physical condition at 82? Why would you want to carry on? You clearly couldn't do this at 86. What do you, and I said, I don't know. You're in a high elected office. You tell me, because I've never been, but how much of this have you done this? And keep in mind, Ron is, 5-6 years younger than me. He's 45. Okay. So if you've done nothing else with your life other than this and being omnipresent in the spotlight and everything else, what else is there left to do? I mean, think about when Bear Bryant finally retired at Alabama. He was dead in about 6 months. Didn't the same thing happen to Joe Paterno when he finally retired at Penn State, right? I mean, what else would you do with the rest of your life? This has been your life, to the point that you have even abandoned, alienated, exiled a grandchild in order to maintain this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many stories and tall tales and fables? This guy is essentially, Commander McBragg. He's put himself in the middle. He's like Forrest Gump of like every historic event of the last 60 years that just never actually happened. This is his whole life. What else would he do? What does Joe Biden do other than this? Because he's done nothing else other than this since before you and I were born, Todd, and we're in our second half of the century now. So, just to sit there and listen to that. And Lester Holt talking very slowly. If you were to have another episode, that's not even a joke. That is literally what we just watched on your monitor. Aaron, you're laughing, but that's your video.
Sad.
That's what we just watched.
I've seen it 3 times now, and I keep laughing, but it's sad. It really is. He's just mumbling. He can't even put together a sentence. It's sad, but I'm laughing because that's the leader of the free world that we're looking at there.
Or the front for whoever's leading the free world.
Yeah.
All right, Jill, forgive me. I broke protocol. Usually ladies get to go first as well as the guest. So I hand it over to you. I yield the balance of my time. Okay. You feel free to behave like Trump last night and just decide, hey, you guys abruptly, interrupted my last speech. I'm going to take my time with this one. Okay. So the time now is yours. What stood out to you about what you just saw and why?
Yeah, I'm going to filibuster for the next hour, Steve. Good luck getting your time back. No, I think actually I want to start with what you were saying, because I don't think that the question is what will Joe Biden do if he retires and goes away. The question is, what will Jill Biden do? Because she has a lot more years left, and she is the one that would be pushing him in the wheelchair there to the very end, a la Dianne Feinstein. So that's really, we know she's the one driving these efforts. But now to go to the bleep, Lord Nefarious says, and the worst of the worst, I'm going to pick out Kim Cheadle, the head of the Secret Service, because the sloped roof comment, where to even begin with this, right? Let's start with the lack of security detail up to that point. Before you even have to enter on to a sloped roof, there were eyewitnesses seeing this guy walking around with a backpack. There's the ladder. So we didn't have anybody at any manned position where they should be to ensure the safety of a former president of the United States, who is also running now as the Republican nominee. We couldn't ensure basic safety protocols. But you know what? Really, when it comes down to it, you guys, did you see the slope of that roof?
Yeah.
Well, it was easy enough for a 20-year-old, for a nerdy 20-year-old to somehow manage his way up to said slope roof, not fall off, and still get a couple shots off at Donald Trump. So if it was easy enough for a nerdy 20-year-old, how in the world is it not okay to put a couple Secret Service agents up there? That to me is the worst, because again, as we like to ask these, all of the questions that you would answer, all the answers would be terrible.
Amen. Todd?
Mine is also the sloped roof thing, but I come at it from a different angle because it's such an indictment of almost everybody and everything. What in the hell did we expect? Hey, see that Perry dude in a dress? You're damn right. He's going to run against your girls. Hey, See that ivermectin that just won a Nobel Prize 5 years ago? It's poison now. You can't have it. Of course this was going to happen. Where have the consequences been for everything? Man, helmet sticker for her. She knows the game exactly. And unless something changes from how we've been playing this game in the past, she's going to win and you're going to lose.
Aaron?
Yeah, even our rulers are terrible at kind of the easiest parts of their jobs. I mean, she's just a terrible liar. Like, just terrible at this. Okay, so we got an email the other day from an ex-Secret Service agent who surmised, based on his experience, that where this would-be assassin would have fallen into the circle of protection that would have fallen to local and state police. Let's say that's true. It's really the onus is on the local and state police. Okay, so it's not really even the Secret Service's fault. That's basically what we're saying here. You that's the best explanation. The roof was sloped. You couldn't even come up with a better lie than that.
They don't need to.
That's what's scary.
And that dovetails with what is my worst. Those man-on-street interviews, that looked like it was probably Southern California, something like that, maybe Florida. Those man-on-street interviews, those people who are quick to say, this came out just like a day after the assassination attempt. Those people who are ready and willing to say, oh, this was all staged, it was a hoax, Donald Trump did this, he's pulling a fast one. All of those people were locked down. They wore the mask.
Yep.
They got jabbed to the hilt. They believed the pandemic of the unvaccinated lie, all because the science told them to. And now Mr. Big Bad nearly gets assassinated. Oh, it was a hoax. You can't share a country with that. When you believe the lie and you want to believe the lies, and you have a vast swaths of people, I don't know, we'll see if it's the vast majority, but when you have vast swaths of people who are ready and willing and want to believe the lie, no matter how it's packaged, who want to lie and delude themselves and gaslight themselves, can't share a country with that.
The lies are the point, Aaron. The lies are the point.
I mean, the scariest thing that we all just said is what you just said. That they don't have to. They don't have to be any better at this than that. They don't have to come up with anything else other than the roof was sloped. Because they just assumed and know that people won't look. They won't check. Go back to COVID. They just can run these numbers on the lower third and just assume that people won't do the math. They won't check. Can just gaslight you right to your face. They just assume you won't check. You won't, And then when a few of us decided, I think we're going to check. They have no answers. They. And so their answer is, we'll just, shun you, censor you. We'll, call the social media companies to make sure that you get throttled and cannot be seen. Okay.
Peter Navarro needs to go to jail for 4 months. Yeah.
Yep. Steve Bannon's in there now. Yeah. I mean, I had a DeSantis person who was disgusted by me doing things this week, like wearing this Trump shirt. And they said, where are your principles? And I said, well, my principle is, sweetie, that I want you to go to prison for what you believe. Apparently a lot less than you do. That's my principle. I would like you to go to prison for what you believe. Apparently a lot less than you do. That's my principle. Is that a good enough principle? Is that a principle, do you think? I'd like the people who share my value system to not go to prison for what they believe. How's that for a principle? Is that a working principle? Do you think, can we workshop that one? Is that a principle or not? I'd like to keep you all out of the gulag if I can.
My experience this week is you will be shown nonetheless.
Whatever, cringe stunt, rake Trump steps on, okay, whatever what was that? Okay, we see from him next is way more preferable than, say, prison thoughts. Like if we could,
I would like a no gulags 2024 T-shirt, please.
Yes. What do you think? Think that's okay? I mean, hey, you're the dad trying to stop your kid from getting transed, prison. Okay. I mean, you're the dad that goes to the school board and says, hey, do something about my daughter getting raped, prison.
Well, here's the other thing.
You're the grandmother that sat in Nancy Pelosi's chair with a false hip, prison. I guess I'd kind of like to just keep as many of our people out of prison as possible. That's my principle.
But here's the thing about what Aaron said. Can't share a country with that? Oh, it's worse because we're learning, based on what you're saying, we can't even share a country with our own side, apparently.
Yeah, apparently, you guys tell me, what's the critical mass of prison for our people that makes you think it's possible they could put me in prison? What's the number, do you think? What do you think it is? I mean, I don't know what it is. I kind of think to me, I think we're at that critical mass. But if you don't, I respect that. Then tell me what's your number of people you think it's okay for them to threaten with prison, threaten with lawfare, put in actual prison, okay, where the process is the punishment. Or you guys tell me, what is the critical mass of number where you're like, all the other things about this guy that annoy me at times, what's really effing annoying? What do you guess is really effing annoying? Prison. Prison's really effing annoying. Pretty annoying. Prison's annoying. Let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being how many times any of us activated our Grindr accounts during the RNC. And that number, frankly, should be 0, by the way. And 10 being the odds Lindsey Graham's Grindr account thinks he's Freddie frickin' Mercury on a leather chaps bender in 1980s West Germany about this moment. And won't let him log on this morning and say, that's enough, Lindsey. Sleep it off. You can't have any more bullets left, Lindsey. That's enough. Go home. Rank this week's level of total depravity. Chill.
Steve, I knew you had it in you there for the Lindsey Graham joke. That is a solid 10.
Thank you.
How do you say 10 in Hitler's German?
I don't want to know, okay, because that'll get turned into a meme and used against me too. Yes.
Oh, that. It's
yes.
that.
Aaron.
Yeah, we're learning German today. That's a 10.
We're going there now because we are. Before we get to issue 2, let's talk about our friends over at Patriot Mobile. I keep telling you, they reinvest back into the kingdom. That's been a talking point of theirs on this show for years. I've seen it with my own eyes, man. It doesn't matter if I'm speaking in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, like I did 6 weeks ago, or I'm speaking in Des Moines, Iowa, like I did last week at an event or a conference there, and I don't get invited to many of the conference types events on the right anyway. So if the ones I keep getting invited to, which is already scarce and limited, if they're there, then that means they're pretty much everywhere. Helping us to promote and advance and preserve our values. So do business with them as your mobile service provider because it's also a great product with an outstanding U.S.-based customer service team. They'll make it as convenient for you as absolutely possible. If you want to keep your phone, you make the switch, you can do that. You want to upgrade your phone, you can do that. Keep your number. Yes. Switch your number. Yep. Can do that too. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Steve right now. If you're a veteran or first responder, let them know if you're going to make the switch. They've got extra ways to say thank you for your service. All of us can use my last name, Steve, and I think you get the first 30 days for free to try it out, right? At patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, let's get to issue 2, Endgame.
Is this a media coup or is something actually happening? For the better part of the last 24 hours, multiple media outlets citing multiple sources within various echelons of the Democrat Party are reporting that Joe Biden is likely to withdraw from his re-election bid this weekend, maybe even as soon as today. What's being reported to happen is that Biden will drop out, will not endorse Kamala Harris, and will kick the nominating process to the Democrat National Convention. Prime Minister Hunter Biden has yet to comment on these reports.
All right. Let's get right to it then on the very opening question. By the time we come back on Monday, will Joe Biden still be the Democrat nominee for president? Todd?
Yes, I think so. As I said, I believe just yesterday, I think it's less likely, and I was more bullish than you, Steve. You thought it's more likely all along that it wouldn't be Biden. I still think it's the most likely option that it's going to be Biden. And it definitely will be, I think, by the end of the weekend. I just don't think there's enough time, and they're analyzing what happened.
You mean that by the end of the weekend he'll still be there? Okay.
Yeah, I think he'll still be there because I think they're really trying. It's going to take a little while to game what this week meant for Republicans in general. He's going to fight. What Jill said about Joe Biden and all that is they're not going to give this up.
Aaron?
So right after the debate, I was convinced that Joe Biden was going to stay on, despite all of the frenzy surrounding that debate. 2 weeks ago, when it became apparent that maybe Barack Obama was working behind the scenes, I just barely went over into the camp that Joe's got to go. Okay. Now I'm like 50-50. So I'm back in toss-up territory. And so I default to what I've said a few times regarding Joe Biden. We said, oh, there's no way somebody with dementia is going to win back in 2020. Oh, he's going to get removed by the end of this year, 2021. Removed by the midterms, after the red wave that wasn't in 2022. There's no way that he's going to make it to 2024. That's what we were saying last year. And I just got to move to Missouri and say, show me. You just got to show me.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm coming down on. He will be the nominee still after this weekend.
Jill, what do you think?
No. You want to know why? My reasoning is fairly simple, because we started Blaze News Tonight a week ago, yesterday. And we haven't had one normal day since then. We had our very first show last Thursday. Donald Trump got shot over the weekend. We have the RNC and the Democrats are in complete chaos. So for that reason alone, I think that I'm not going to have a nice chill weekend. We're going to come back to chaos on Monday from the Democratic Party. But what I said last night on our RNC coverage, it feels like it's a little girl picking petals off of a daisy. He loves me. He loves me not. Joe Biden's going to be president. No, he's not. He's going to be the nominee. No, he's not. Once we get to this point in the cycle, how do you go back from here? Joe Biden thinks that he's the one leading this charge. He thinks that he has the power. And I think this is going to be the weekend that they show you that he is actually the puppet on the marionette, not the one pulling the strings. He's the useful idiot in this scenario. And I think that just because they keep pushing, they're trying to get the best deal for themselves. This is what we know about the Bidens, is they love themselves a good deal. And if we can get 10% for the big guy, we're going to do it. I think it's more likely that the behind the scenes dealings are going on, saying you have to give us something really good. You're going to have to protect Hunter, make sure that he doesn't actually have to do anything difficult in relation with all of his gun stuff that he had. So as long as they can get what they want, and it's not going to be the ultimate power because they aren't the ones in charge. And we've known this the whole time. I
agree with Jill. I don't know that they can get it done by Monday. I just don't know how that works. But the order has been given. It's over. It's been over for a while. Like, I don't believe they're just now contemplating their exit strategy. I think this has been an ongoing posture and negotiation behind the scenes the entire time. And I mean, I was told by my best corporate media mole 36 hours ago, the Democrats have already moved on to the next stage, that we're all, arguing with each other if the current stage of Biden leaving is going to occur. They're already plotting out amongst themselves how to bypass Kamala because they just know she's not electable either. Okay. And those are the conversations that they are having internally. I wasn't sure after the attempted assassination how they would respond. And I said at the time, I could see a scenario where they decide, let's just go REO, Speedwagon Man, ride the storm out, blame the whole thing on Joe, unique circumstance, and move on as a party. Or I could see them also accelerate efforts in response to that too, depending on how disruptive to their agenda they believe another Trump presidency would be. I think what they saw in this convention, and the things in this convention that conventional conservatives, or traditional maybe is a better way of putting it, because there's not a lot about me that's conventional. So let's just say traditional conservatives like me were the most offended by. Okay, the black lesbian porn star speaking, the lack of highlighting of the abortion or the pro-life issue, the president of the friggin' Teamsters speaking at a Republican convention for the first time since 1980. Those things were shots across the bow of their coalition.
Did you see what Mark Zuckerberg was saying this morning?
That Trump, look a badass there.
Yeah, most badass thing he's ever seen.
And you're talking about things where especially then you put J.D. Vance on there, not a Club for Growth guy. And by the way, I've had great relations with the Club for Growth over the years, but that's not the wing of economic conservatism that he comes out of. All right, so the VP nominee wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy, and black lesbian porn stars and the president of the Teamsters are showing up. And I think those are shots across the bow of their existing coalition. You have to understand, if you get rid of, and the entire Republican convention was aimed at the identity idolatry politics of the Democratic Party. Without the identity politic angle in the Democratic Party, their party is literally reduced to Marxists of various stripes and affluent white women that watch The View. That's the whole party. You can't build anything electorally significant on that. That represents like 20% of the counties in the country. Okay? So you can't build, I'm sorry, that represents less than 20% of the counties in the country. There's nothing electorally significant with that. And so they need to hold on to that. And I think their desperation to do this, and this is why the machinations began even before last night gavelled in, 6 hours before Trump even took the stage for his speech. They were already working on tomorrow. We're just going to move on, memory hold this entire convention and move all of our narratives over to the intrigue on the Democratic side and try to mitigate the convention bounce. Sure enough, I'm at the gym lifting this morning. Every one of their media sources, it's like the Republican convention never happened last night. They've all moved on. Okay. And it's all about who the next generation is going to be for the Democratic Party. I think their efforts are accelerated now.
You and Jill are absolutely right, and it is why I am moving in your direction, but why I'm not moving perhaps as quickly as you, and you two are both in positions when you're talking to more people than I am. Jill, you alluded to it about their negotiating with what the Bidens want, but I think that we're not acknowledging how dark that hole is. The Bidens know things. He's the president, this reverse Wakanda thing. Jill is a bitter woman. I mean, it's not as easy of taking the ring of power back as giving it. So, and
that's why it's taken as long as it has. You're right.
You're absolutely right about the demographics in play, but that's what you're dealing with. If they push them out, can they control this? That's the scariest thing. They know things. Big, bad, dark things.
Can they control this? We just had a conversation about they don't have to come up with a better lie other than the roof was sloped. Epstein didn't kill himself. Yeah, I'm pretty confident they can control things. Let's get to the exit question because we're running short. Well, I got about a minute. Anybody else want to chime in after I went on a little soliloquy there other than Todd? Anybody want to add to that, Aaron or Jill?
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment, and I've shared as much myself. My question is, why haven't those big bad things come out yet? Why haven't we started to see?
Oh, you're responding to what Todd was just bringing up.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, where's their pushback?
Yeah, Chuck Schumer.
That's a good point, too.
Remember when you did this? Yeah. You remember when you did that?
This is Scott Glenn. The hard part about playing chicken is knowing when to flinch.
Well, the other side clearly hasn't flinched. The only thing left for the other side to do is invoke the 25th. They've done literally everything else.
Because we had reports late last week saying that top Democrat leaders have already resigned themselves to a second Trump administration. We've got reports this week. Your mole, and then I think it was reported in Axios as well, or somewhere, that basically this thing is over. We're already game theorying out to the next stage. Mm-hmm. This is all over the place still, going into 3 weeks.
30 seconds, Jill. I can see you want to chime in. Go ahead.
Exactly 1 month till their convention. Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to be able to digitally start voting on August 1st. And according to Mark Halperin's tweet that Aaron put up in that montage, they're not going to be allowed to do that. So it's going to be complete chaos between now and August 1st to August 19th, because they only have that very limited amount of time. And let's remember, the Democrats, these rules that you talk about with the Democrats, no, they're more like guidelines, guys, and they can break whatever they want.
Exit question. Who will be the eventual Democrat nominee for president this year? Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or somebody else? Aaron.
Somebody else.
Todd.
Biden.
Jill.
I think it's going to be Kamala, because they don't want her to be the person. And if you're going up against Trump right now, you know that's going to be a losing position. So why not put her up there and let her fail and move on for the next time?
See, in real time, my thinking is like, there's no way he can be the nominee. Yeah. I mean, I just said 20 minutes ago, or how it seems like 20 minutes ago. I just said, you got to show me. This thing is chaotic.
I agree with Aaron. I agree with Jill, and I agree with me. I mean, really, totally.
That's maybe the best take yet. Yes is the yes to all. Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with literal demons here. Everything is on the table, and nothing is, as a matter of fact. If people are wondering why put Kamala up there if they think she would lose too, Kamala doesn't threaten the destabilization of your coalition the way Joe Biden is right now. You can at least run a racially divisive race with her. You can just run on racism, okay? You can keep the identity politics shtick going with her.
True, and Jill's point is really salient. Let's lose with her, too, if we're going to lose, and get her out of the way and start over again. I think there's a lot on both sides of that.
All right, when we come back, we'll turn the tables, and we'll look at last night's speech by Donald Trump accepting the GOP nomination. Next. You know, the things we build our future upon are the things worth protecting. That is what we leave behind as a legacy. So make sure that you have an estate plan that does exactly that, and that your legacy goes and is completed the way that you want it to be done, that you have that kind of peace of mind for both you and your loved ones. And with our friends at Trust and Will, you can do that. You can create and manage a custom estate plan starting as low as $199. We used Trust and Will to update all of our estate stuff a year ago. And Amy absolutely raved about how easy it was, how customizable it was as well. So you can go to trustandwill.com/Deace, secure your assets, protect your loved ones with Trust and Will. Get 10% off and free shipping of your estate planning documents by visiting trustandwill.com/Deace. That's trust and the word, trustandwill.com/Deace. Save 10% and get free shipping at trustandwill.com/Deace. Let's welcome in from Blaze News tonight, our Blaze TV colleague and our good friend Jill Savage, as we continue with the week that was. And let's get to issue 3 here on the Deace Group, Trump's speech.
Well, that was something after an extremely visceral first 15 or so minutes, recounting his near assassination, crediting God for saving his life, and paying tribute to the supporter of his who lost his life at the rally while protecting his family. The rest of Donald Trump's convention speech was Donald Trump.
You know, the press is always on me because I say this. Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner.
What a place to just cut that off. Wow. All right. I don't even know where to begin with that. Let's get to, I didn't expect that awkward cut off, but we'll get to the first question here. And Aaron, I'll go to you. Your thoughts on Trump's convention acceptance speech and the convention as a whole?
So it was Donald Trump in concentrated form. And I'm not saying he was concentrated. He was very distracted, very meandering. I'm just saying it was like orange juice concentrate. That was just Donald Trump. You know, I was watching that, and my wife and I watched the first 15 minutes or so together. And, you know, I think maybe I had a misreading. I don't know. I thought he kind of made his recounting of the attempt on his life. I thought he made that kind of boring, but my wife said that could just be like a trauma response as well, recounting in really, really vivid detail what happened. That could very well be. And, you know, watching that again, it was pretty clear that was not the same guy that we're accustomed to seeing just kind of letting it riff. I think the emotions of the moment probably got to him. The rest of the speech, there was some great, there was some good, there was some what the hell are you talking about? I mean, taking a chicken wing at Nayib Bukele. Was he confusing that with Venezuela? I think he was. I texted you guys. Was he talking about Nayib Bukele when he was talking about a leader who's trying to, you know, make himself look really good, but he's sending us all of his criminals? But he was also talking about Venezuela at the same time as well. It was odd, but at the end of the day, this was not terrible for him, but I was hoping for much more. Because the moment that that was afforded to him, thankfully so, that could have been a moment that we could have been talking about. He could have just gotten through the speech that was as written and a uniting speech, not taking pot shots at different people. You know, we like to hear that. We like to hear anybody taking pot shots at people who deserve it. But originally the plan was he wasn't going to say Biden once. He kept referring to him, like, after he kind of unsealed that, he kept going back there a couple of more times. It was just quintessential Donald Trump, other than the first 15 or so minutes. So I don't really have that much of an opinion of it. It's just Donald Trump.
I mean, Argentina is like 5,000 miles away. Yeah, I mean, to illegally, you can, but the amount of countries you have to go through between us and Argentina. So I think he was likely referring to the guy in El Salvador, that he sees a lot of his own people celebrating, and he was kind of saying to them last night, hey, yeah, okay, yeah, that guy's also shipping his criminals to us. I think that's what he was kind of referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, on that point. All right, Todd, what'd you think?
I'm pretty much exactly where Aaron is. It was so unfocused. Comical. Like, I was laughing at the end. I was punchy and just like, oh my God.
It was late. We were all punchy.
And this is not, and when I say that, it's not critical for the election. Other thing, like, I don't think this is in the bag or anything, like, but this speak, I don't think it does anything here or there for the election per se, because listen, if we on this stage, and a lot of us haven't learned any lessons about Trump and his ability to win elections despite certain things, I mean, but it's the governing part that you can't. Did you learn anything during COVID and lawfare and et cetera, et cetera? You can't be this unfocused if you win. The way they're going to come after you now, if you win, after that, destroy everything, means you need to be on your game more than this in terms of clear messaging, bottom line. And so, yes, I was simply disappointed.
Jill.
You take the first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes, you shove those together, and you lose everything in the middle. And we would have had the speech that I think everybody was anticipating. We were told going into last night that Donald Trump had tore up his original speech and he was rewriting it himself. There's no way that Donald Trump wrote that entire speech himself. I think that first 20 minutes that we keep talking about, he added all that in, but we didn't lose what was already in there. And I didn't think that Trump was going to go as long as he did through all of his policy points, because if you watched earlier that night in the convention, his son, Eric Trump, really got through the nuts and bolts of what his campaign was going to be about. I thought that was I was like, oh, this is perfect. You have Eric Trump on earlier in the evening. This is what the campaign is about. Now Donald gets to go out there and just tell the story of this is who I am. I thought the most brilliant move of the entire convention was when Don Jr. was on the stage and he joked. He said, you're going to see something that doesn't happen very often. A Trump is going to give up the microphone. And he brought his daughter, Kai, onto the stage. And she talked about her grandpa, Trump, and how he is just a normal grandpa like everybody else to her. And she humanized Donald Trump in a way that no one else has been able to do. And you could see it, the reaction shots of Trump in the crowd looking at Kai on stage, the glowing nature. It was a man that knows that he had a second chance at life. And I think that if we keep focusing on the Donald Trump that we saw on night one, walking out and looking visibly emotional on his face, I think that he did a disservice to himself by going with the longest speech in RNC acceptance history at 1 hour and 32 minutes last night. But Steve, you are a real trooper because you stayed up and did the post show with me. So I appreciate that. Let me actually acknowledge that on your show here today. So thank you for staying up late.
That is a nice way of saying no one else was willing to do that, but you are very welcome nevertheless. I will tell you, my texts had a definitive line of demarcation in how this was received between those who were there that I know and those who watched on TV. Those who were there were enthralled because they were caught up. The emotion of the moment of him going out there and recounting, a near-death experience, and that set the tone from there. On TV, those who watched from TV that within my circle that were texting me wished maybe much of the speech would have ended about right there. Okay, I think that all that really matters in the end is what normies think of this, and I have to tell you, I have no idea. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't. And I thought the normies were going to give us a red wedding, let alone a red wave in the last election, and they did not show up. So I don't know. I mean, how desperate was I to get information? I watched coverage, not an event like the debate. I watched coverage on CNN for the first time since 2016. And they had a panel of undecided voters. There were 13. But although two of them said that they had made up their minds heading into the week that they were now, one was going to vote for Biden or whoever the Democrats nominated, and the other one was going to vote for Trump. So I don't know why they're still on a panel of undecideds, but okay. So of the 11 who claimed they were truly undecided, everyone except for a couple of people gave the speech a B or a C. One guy gave it a D, another guy gave it an A. And when they asked the guy why they gave it a D, well, he was just the same stuff he does before with his own personal grievances I don't care about. And when they asked the guy, why'd you give it an A? Well, because that was quintessential Donald Trump and I like Trump. Okay. So their positions were completely determined by how they view him personally. The other people, there were 4 people that determined after the speech that they would now vote for Trump out of the remaining 11 uncommitted. 7 said they were still undecided. Make of that what you will, but I don't have a clue because it's also not what any of us expected. I think many of us were expecting Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson, and it started off that way with him talking about his experience and what happened. But then it kept kind of going on and on and on, and it kind of felt like we ended up, we could have used a good editor and ended up with King Kong Peter Jackson, where there's still some good scenes in there, some cool stuff, but you're also kind of looking at your watch and saying, you know what I mean? So at least that's what it felt like to me watching on TV. But I have no clue necessarily how normies will receive this. I don't know how many of them stayed up to watch this. I don't know. And that might even be to our benefit, because if they kind of went to sleep 20, 30 minutes in, we all agree that was the best part of the entire thing, right? Okay. That made him the most personal. It gave America a look into him as a human, despite he's maybe the most well-known name on earth. He still managed at age 78 to give us a glimpse of him we had not seen. So maybe it's for the best that the speech went too long and normies just kind of tuned out maybe after that point. I think that could work out too. I don't know. Let's get to the exit question. If the odds the Republican and National Convention enhanced the GOP's chances to win this November were a U2 song, which U2 song would it be? A, Beautiful Day. B, Mysterious Ways. I don't know. C, Sunday, Bloody Sunday. That's not good, by the way. Aaron.
Mysterious Ways.
Todd.
Beautiful Day.
Whoa.
Whoa. It was
Mr. Vinegar is now Mr. Sunshine.
Well, no, the bar is so low.
There it is. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm not saying.
Now I was really thinking things would become really uncertain, but now I feel like I'm back on terra firma again.
Terminal illness or something,
yes,
Todd? You want to tell us about?
They just cleared the bar. It's very low. All right. They cleared it.
Jill?
We were going to have to spend the rest of the time of this segment going over Todd's Beautiful Day, but no, that's my answer too. But he explained himself. I feel better now.
Okay. Let's get to our kicker topic, issue 4. I'm going to show you something, folks. If you're a codger, and I'm catching up to you, this is what's called a heat map. Okay, Grindr, which I alluded to sarcastically earlier, is the homo Tinder, right? That's where the homos go to get their freak show on. Is on Grindr, aptly named. Okay, and look at that heat signature during the GOP convention this week. Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott, where you at? I mean, Tim Scott's like, screw it, man. I'm not going to be the VP. I can shave this beard and let it fly, let it rip. YOLO, brother. All right, so compare this heat map to the one that we're going to see from the DNC 30 days from now. What will that look like, Aaron?
I think it's probably going to be seniorsizzle.com.
Senior Sizzle.
As it stands now, that's going to be the heat
You think
map.
the GOP will out-Grindr the Democrats?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like Mushroom Cloud. Like they just have to shut the heat map down. No? Okay. We're more homo than they are now, is what you're saying.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Within the influencer ranks, I think that's absolutely true. Todd?
It's going to be as lit as the heat map of grown men baiting in their mom's basement to a video game this weekend. And that's lit.
All right, so you're thinking more like me, a mushroom cloud?
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be.
Jill, what do you think?
I'm Team Aaron on this one. I think the GOP is going to bring it home. We don't do Lindsey Graham jokes on this show for nothing, Steve.
Jeez.
Remind me to apologize to your father for what I've done to you. Remind me to apologize to your dad. He's a sweet man, and I'm very sorry what I did to his daughter all these years. I'm sorry. You were innocent once. Then the Pac-12 network collapsed, and here we are.
She came in here.
Here we are. Here we are with Lindsey Graham jokes that I look forward to
Look at that.
Yes.
every single Deace Group.
I love it. Got your own show. She marched in here, and she just took the car keys away from you. Like,
So I got this, Pops.
is this real or not?
Yes, indeed. All right, let's get to our prediction. Aaron, I'll start with you. Go.
Todd Erzin will be convinced that the new college football 25 game is a better use of time than participating in and watching the next Donald Trump 90-minute speech.
All right, Todd.
I loved it this morning. A couple guys from the office came in and walked right up to Todd and said, "Happy College Football 25 Day, Todd."
Nice. Very
It
nice.
happened. It
Todd,
did.
yes.
In order to survive moves and counter moves, Biden is actually going to have to sort of kind of get closer to Trump. He's going to look like he's really in charge and in the know and capable of solving crimes. He is somehow going to be the one putting forth new evidence about what actually happened with the Secret Service and the shooter. So it's going to lift him up and anoint him and keep him there. But to do that, he's going to have to somehow take Trump's back.
Jill.
I woke up in a great mood after the convention, only to see the soft launch of the cyber pandemic. I think that this is going to be what we are going to see as we get closer to November. And you thought you were going to have free and fair elections. You thought.
You think it's a bad idea to have electronic digital elections when you're watching every airplane in America get grounded this morning? You think there's a corollary there? Is that what you think?
This is
okay. Just clarifying.
This, by the way, is the whole premise of the Battlestar Galactica reboot. Adama stays off the grid, and that's why he survives. Folks,
that is true.
Pay attention.
Gosh, I love that show. It's one of the greatest shows of all time. My prediction is if Trump does win this fall, he will face an existential COVID-like crisis over the economy, and the system will drop the entire thing on his lap to try to bring down his presidency.
Correct.
And so he better be ready for it.
100%.
Better be ready for that.
This is my point about being unfocused. It's not, the speech is not just a speech thing. You got to be on the ball.
Everything that the Fed and everybody else is trying to do right now to basically hold the land shark at the door so it doesn't eat Candace Bergen. Okay, everything they're doing, man, they're gonna take the hinges off that door. You're gonna see a herd of land sharks in there. Okay, better be ready. Better have the Adam West Batman shark repellent. Better have it ready. Okay, because it is coming.
He needs to have the best cabinet, perhaps, in the history of the presidency. He just does.
Amen. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Feedback Friday is coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, we are back with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, and all of you. And you can all let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. steve@stevedeace.com is how you can email us. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, X, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you listen to the podcast version, if you wouldn't mind, please leave us a 5-star review. If you've done that already, thank you. If you haven't yet, what more must we do? We bring you the same level of mediocrity on a daily basis. By now, just accept that. Okay. You can also hit subscribe or follow if you're tuned in on iTunes, because that way, if you do it, every time we do a new episode, you'll see it right there in your podcast feed every single time. And we thank all of you doing that for us too. Want to thank you guys in advance. Help us to rebuild on YouTube. We just scrapped our YouTube channel. It just had so much censorship, so many strikes. We just couldn't get over to the top with that. So we just decided to start all over. All right. So if you'd please subscribe to our new YouTube channel and share it with others as well. At Deace Show on Twitter. I'm sorry. At Deace Show on YouTube. Now, at Deace Show is the account on YouTube you're looking for. At Deace Show there. If you're looking for one of the few universities left in America not totally given over to the spirit of the age, you're looking for Hillsdale. Our friends there are basically celebrating Independence Month here in July. You can go to daceforhillsdale.com, F-O-R, daceforhillsdale.com. You can watch an inspiring portrayal of Thomas Jefferson as he reflects on the meaning of the Declaration of Independence in a letter that he wrote later in his life. It's a short video you can watch there. You can get a free copy of the Declaration of Independence as well well if you go to daceforhillsdale.com, daceforhillsdale.com. But don't delay. This is a limited time offer, and we are getting kind of the end here. We're well into the second half of Independence Month, so take advantage of this today on behalf of Hillsdale College at daceforhillsdale.com. That's daceforhillsdale.com. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
No.
This could be interesting.
No. It's the first time you guys have ever said no. Okay. I want to begin with this from, I'll leave the name out, and you'll find out why after I get done reading it. I've been a listener to you guys for a while now. Really enjoy the show. Mainly your unashamed proclamation of the gospel. I'm the son of a Southern Baptist minister. I'm a retired Secret Service agent who now runs a security company. I spent over 20 years as a Secret Service agent, served on the Presidential Protection Division while Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama were in office. I wanted to offer you guys a few thoughts on the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Let me start by stating the obvious. There was a security failure. A congressional inquiry and thorough investigation is needed, though I have very little confidence in the trustworthiness of the FBI. Everything that is being done to include my statements in this email is speculation without all the necessary facts. I know that it will make some people feel good to place blame today, but without a lot more answers, it's likely inaccurate. But there is some speculation that is better, or at least more informed than maybe what you're seeing elsewhere. So let's speculate. Is it possible that the Secret Service let the shooter shoot first, or that the Secret Service was in on it, as many have claimed? After 2020, I believe anything is possible. I would put the percentage chance, though, that the Secret Service was in on this at 0.001%. It is irresponsible to make these kinds of statements without proof. The men I worked with were absolute professionals and took the job 100% seriously and would have sacrificed themselves without hesitation before allowing a president or former president to be harmed. Did make us perfect or without error? Could that ethos have changed since I retired about 6 years ago? It's possible, but it's deeply ingrained in the culture in my time. We were deadly serious about our mission, as we had to be. As to the Secret Service let him shoot first theory, I can only say this. I was not a counter sniper. However, I will simply say that it would not be policy for the bad guy to have to shoot first. So let's just leave that one there. You guys know what he means by that? Mm-hmm. That if you saw the sniper, you'd take him out. You wouldn't wait for him to shoot. That's what he means.
Yeah.
Resources. Experts are saying what assets a president would or should have. They're leaving out a very important word, former. Trump is a former president and as such does not get the assets that a sitting president does. It's just a budgetary fact. Even so, what assets were asked for and denied? What assets should have been asked for but weren't, and why weren't they? By assets, I would mean counter-sniper teams, counter-surveillance teams, Secret Service post standers, agents who hold that. Those are agents who hold fixed post at an event site, don't move throughout the venue with the protectee. As has been publicized, the Secret Service used concentric circles of protection. This is an inner ring, all Secret Service, which would be the working shift that surround a protectee. A middle ring is a mixture of Secret Service and local state police, and an outer ring overwhelmingly made up of local and state police. As best as I can tell from looking at Google Maps, online photos, etc., the building in question would have fallen in the outer ring, maybe middle, but undoubtedly would have been assigned to the local state police. The building was not missed. I am sure that the counter-sniper advance surveyed that building and identified it as a threat. If a counter-surveillance team was assigned to this visit, they would have also identified that building as a threat. The Secret Service agent in charge of developing the security plan for this event, that's the site agent, would have had discussions with his local state police counterpart and requested that they secure this building. The site agent would have informed them why we were requesting it. Just like the Secret Service, local and state agencies have to account for the money they are spending in the form of man hours, so would we need to justify the necessity for securing that building and dedicating resources to it. The site agent, in all likelihood, would not have told his local counterpart how to secure the building, but would have left that to his discretion. The site agent would have made it clear, however, the why the building had to be secure. It's approximately 150 yards in the range. It has direct line of sight to the stage. Its roof provides an elevated firing position, and if a bad guy with a long gun were to get on that roof, it would be really bad. The idea that the roof needed to be secure, whether done from the ground or on the roof itself, would have been made clear. The how would have been, in all probability, left to the local authorities. Something obviously went wrong with securing that rooftop. So as of when he left the Secret Service in 2018, he is saying that these were their protocols for these kinds of situations. All right. But ultimately, the responsibility here does fall to the Secret Service. I don't say that above. I didn't say what I just said to throw the locals under the bus, but to clarify what the process for securing the outer ring would be. And whatever heads need to roll within Secret Service, I will leave for others to decide. I write this email because I love your show and I want you guys to have good information. The fact that former President Trump wasn't killed is not considered to be a success by the men and women of the Secret Service, not the ones I served with anyway. We have to do better. With the right leadership and the appropriate funding, we will do better. The men and women I served with had a deep love of country, took enormous pride in doing our part to protect it. Members of President Trump detail acted quickly and selflessly in shielding his body with their own on that stage. Moments like that are the reason they became Secret Service agents, and that should be honored. Again, we'll leave his name out. What do you think? Thoughts?
Well, you sound like an actual expert who should be running things, but there's not a government agency anywhere in this country, federal, state, or local, that is not plagued on some level and by design by a lack of expertise. Quite frankly, they put the opposite in on purpose. So I wish we had more men on like you in there still, and it wouldn't have happened. But we can see with our own eyes that this thing is a bleep sandwich.
Did I miss it? Did he not have anything to say about the sloped roof?
Yeah, he left that part out, apparently. Yeah, as a mitigating factor, yes.
Yeah. So I think, given his perspective as formerly being involved in the Secret Service, he has some deference there, and I appreciate that perspective, and it's not without warrant, because he wants to make sure that everything is on the up and up here as we're analyzing this. So I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, and this is how he led off his letter, this was a lapse. One way or another. This is a colossal F-up. One way or another. I think what he's trying to dissuade us from doing is assuming that this was some sort of an inside job or an intentional lapse, but one way or another. You know what, I was just channeling this just a couple weeks ago. If this was just an oopsie-doopsie lapse, these things tend to happen in late-stage republics. We can't even secure our own major political party nominees now from a roof 130 yards away. It may end up being that this is just an oopsie-doopsie. We just screwed up, just accidental, no malice intended. That's not really where my mind is, given that we've had how many Trump outdoor rallies, how many rallies of this sort for Donald Trump, and all of a sudden, right before the Republican National Convention, we let a guy get on a roof 130 yards away. Occam's razor tells me that that's just weird. Mm-hmm. But if at the end of the day we find out we just screwed up here, it was a colossal screwed up, it was not intentional, there was no malice, again, these things tend to happen in late stage republics.
I would just say, because I'm guessing he's listening today based on what else he says in the note about how much he loves the show. I would just say that if you could go back to our I'll leave his name out at his request, obviously. If I could go back and tell my 2018 self that I would be saying the things on this show I am saying right now, I would have said my 2018 self would say, what went wrong? What happened? I mean, we're off the rails here.
Yeah.
And you know why I'm saying those things now? Because we're off the rails here. And we just watched the spirit of the age use a poisonous genetic serum to purge the military, basically. Purge the military of dissenters, the kinds of people that would not take part in things like this. I mean, I would assume there was some form of mandate to the Secret Service agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine there were. Now, I heard from every branch of armed force or public service in this country over the last few years, among those who dissented against the jab mandates. The one thing I've never heard from is a Secret Service agent. But I have to assume somebody in there, some group of people in there said, yeah, I'm not. You're not injecting me with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also had a completely different administration in charge at the time that you left compared to the administration in charge that we have right now. And we have way accelerated the things that were even going on under Obama that you would have seen in this era. And I've seen people, again, a lot of people that I tend to agree with, upset about moving the party to the middle and making it more about a coalition than about ideology, and playing Reagan's, pretty pastel, or no pretty pastels, but bold color speech, which was I believe he gave that speech at the very first CPAC in 1975. So we're talking 50 years ago. All right. We're not the same country we were 50 years ago at all. We're a godless country. I need to see that watering down the issues and making that we can win an election when it's not about issues. We've never done that before, because I've said my whole career, when elections are about issues, Republicans win, and when they're about personalities, Democrats do, right? Okay. Well, right now that we're having a personality-based campaign, and it's based on, is Joe Biden fit for office or not, okay? We're not talking really any substantive issues right now. We're just talking about him on a personal level. And, I mentioned I watched CNN's coverage last night for the first time in almost a decade, because I had nowhere else to watch. And John King's on there basically saying, the floor for Donald Trump right now is 275 electoral college votes unless Democrats do something drastic. That's the floor. And he could get anywhere from 275 to 330 based on the people we're talking to. And that's on CNN. Okay. So, we've never won a personality-based election before, but I am open to the fact now that as we grow increasingly godless, as things become increasingly demonic, that the old paradigms and trend lines, or as you like to say, the status quo is the status quo until it isn't anymore, may not hold. Now, to divorce me from that trend line, you're going to probably have to prove it to me all the way. But I'm at least open to being found wrong. Do I think it is possible, given where the culture is at? Now, let me pause. This is not an endorsement. I would not have invited Amber Rose to speak. I'd invited Ariella Krause, who we just had on the show.
Absolutely.
She would have spoken instead if I was in charge, okay? But I'm a Jesus freak, so I'm already outside the mainstream of almost any culture anybody like me has ever been planted in for 2,000 years, except for really this one for the last 200 years, okay? Mm-hmm. So, but given what I think is the true condition of the culture, is it possible? This is not an endorsement. This is not. I'm like, yeah, fist pump. This is what I'm into this. Observations aren't endorsements. Be an adult, okay? But do I think it is possible, given the condition of the culture, that Amber Rose provides a better opportunity to expand the Republican footprint than somebody like me does? I do. I hope that's not possible. I hope it's not. But I would be deceiving myself if I did not open myself up to the idea that maybe that's true. And that maybe there's a reason Trump is doing the things that he's doing on this, and it's not just because he's trying to inject New York values into the party, but this guy, if this guy knows how to do anything, it's brand and market. And he knows what a brand and a market is.
You're talking about art of the deal.
Yeah, and he is seeing that we're the diminishing market. This is a godless culture. We are the diminishing market. And where the market is growing, Amber Rose, guys, I've got 240,000 Twitter followers. Amber Rose has over 3 million, okay? That's entirely possible. Do you know how many major influencers on the right, even the biggest names, have more followings than on X than she does? It's a very, very small number. It'd probably be less than 5. Less than 5. I mean, it's entirely possible. That would be sad. That would be tragic, and it does not bode well for the future. Okay? Which is one of the reasons why we're so sense of urgency around here. All right? But I'm open to being proven wrong, and I would have said this in any other cycle. Reagan is right. We can't win. Because the trend line proved that Reagan was right. It wasn't just a speech. We never won an election when it wasn't about issues. Okay? Well, Trump is I wouldn't say decisively, but as the late, great Billy Packer used to say on the old NCAA tournament basketball games, he's got a working margin right now. Fair? Working margin. Mm-hmm. Not decisive, but Right now, if we were voting today, he'd probably feel pretty confident about how this was going to turn out. What the margin would be, who knows? But the result, he'd probably feel confident about.
Yeah.
Okay? It is possible that the paradigm has shifted, that we are so godless that Amber Rose is a better face for the Republican Party than people like me. And that means in a negative world, people like me are going to have to decide how to move forward if we want to remain culturally or politically engaged, to do something new, to focus on something parochial or local where these issues are less prevalent, to just say that's not our fight at all and we're just going to focus on evangelizing and teaching the word. I mean, we're all going to come to different conclusions, or to stay where we're at, because we got a foothold here and at least they listen to us a little bit. We're all going to come to different conclusions on that in a negative world. But I think we should be open to different conclusions. And I say all that to say to the same retired Secret Service agent in this audience, brother, you should consider that your paradigm has shifted dramatically the last few years as well. Different people in charge. Did anybody in the Secret Service leak as an anonymous source? The president has dementia. We've seen it. Somebody should do something about this. Or did we just wait and let him just get away with it for 3 years until he went up there on a debate in front of 80 million people and showed it to us? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think what we thought, how this all worked in 2018, I am not entirely sure how much of that is relevant at this particular moment.
Correct.
And again, am I happy saying this? Do I look joyful?
No,
Am I making a joyful noise?
No.
Nope. I'm living in negative world.
But it's growth. I said it before. What you just described, a bumper sticker way of thinking about what Steve just said, is listen. Frodo's at a low moment complaining, I wish I really didn't have to carry this burden and live in these times. And Gandalf pats him on the back. Gotta live in the times that are given to you. Do the best that you can. Be honest about that, folks. And if you're too comfortable, you won't.
One of the reasons, this is what we just talked about, is one of the reasons we need a parallel economy. So that we can be as self-sufficient within one another in our own community as we possibly can for negative world. Our friends at Freedom Chamber, they want to be on the cutting edge of establishing exactly that. They want you to know, if you're a business owner, especially a small, medium-sized business owner, you are not alone. You can join up with other business owners with like-minded values and help the Freedom Chamber build the parallel economy. And the Freedom Chamber right now, it is open for business as the pro-American business network with values rooted in faith, family, and freedom. All right. And so if you want to get hooked up with them, it's a dynamic, innovative organization. They've got comprehensive support, robust resources, exclusive networking opportunities. Join today at freedomchamber.net. That's freedomchamber.net. Again, freedomchamber.net. All right. Let's go here. My name is Jared Schoner. First and foremost, I'm a fellow believer in the one true God. I've listened to your show for several years, even before you came to the Blaze. I listen when I can, but sometimes it isn't easy going through life's busy moments, especially because I'm also a social studies teacher in a small rural public district in Illinois. Several years ago, at the beginning of my career, I sent you an email asking for your advice on how to use my platform as a public education teacher to be a witness to kids. I was hoping for encouragement and advice as I was a nervous young adult at the beginning of my career who wanted to be a light for Jesus. Instead, you used my email to condescend me on the show. You referred to the Scopes monkey trial, assuming I had no idea about it, when in fact it's something that I teach a lesson on in every year in my courses. You brazenly stated, where are the people like this on our side? Even then, I took that message and used it as a learning opportunity. Even though you had no idea why I became a social studies teacher in the first place, I still respected your message. I took it more as a tough love kind of message. And I still have time, and I still have been listening to your show since then, even though I admit that it upset me at the time. Let me tell you why I'm in this career. First, I wanted to be a Christian witness and role model to my students. Many students in schools nationwide have no positive male role models, especially Christian ones. They don't have parents who take them to church, and they view Christianity from an outsider looking in perspective. These are the kids I wanted to reach. My favorite part of my job is having conversations about the faith with my students, whether they have grown up in it or have no exposure to it at all. I also wanted to teach about our nation's history, government, and constitution in the way that our founding fathers intended it to be. I pride myself on teaching kids how to think and not what to think, and so many in our society are content to believe whatever the news media tells them to think. For a while now, you have made known your feelings about the government school system. You throw out words like indoctrination and point to specific situations of absolutely sinful behavior among government school faculty around the country that fit that narrative. Despite my continued displeasure with your generalizations, I still listen to your show so that I could stay informed, grow as a believer, and use the lessons I learned from your show in my own platform, which is my classroom. But your recent pitch for Freedom Project Academy, you alluded to public schools as Satan's youth ministries. Just for the record, by the way, I have been using that for the entirety of the 18 years I've been on the air doing this. So that wasn't something that I rolled out for the very first time. I just, that has been said on this show countless times over the last 18 years. Anyway, with their demonic curricula and indoctrination, with this, I can stay silent no longer. How dare you? I will not stand idly by as you refer to me by association as an agent of Satan and indoctrination. As a Christian who has even a broader platform than myself to dispense information to people, you should know what it is like to be included among such reckless generalizations. With all of the criticisms of the media today as fake news or agents of the leftist media, wouldn't it be unfair if I lumped you into that category simply because you work in that industry? Of course, it would be unfair and disingenuous. Use your platform and media to try to reach or try to teach truth and be a witness to the gospel. Yet because I am attempting to do the same, but in a public school, you lump me under the category of literally advancing the cause of Satan, the enemy of our Lord. Yes, there are teachers, administrators, and school boards who are absolutely demonic in their decisions and actions, and we as the church should stand up to such demonic filth. There are, however, several teachers, administrators, and school board members around the country and in my personal sphere who fight back against such attacks on our children, whether they be local or state level. But I suppose in your logic that they should just be chastised as soldiers for the devil simply because they work in a public school. Despite that, I will continuously I can pursue truth and attempt to reflect a biblical worldview to my students in my instruction and behavior. Based on your history on the show, I'm sadly led to believe should you actually read and consider this email this far, there is a likelihood you will use it to ridicule me on your show without making any attempt to actually challenge your own preconceived notions or hold yourself accountable. You may use this as an attempted comedic example of how arrogant, selfish, dangerous, or prideful public school teachers are, thus continuing your trend of generalizing fellow believers in my line of work. You may possibly even cherry pick specific parts of this email out of context to advance that message. But honestly, all I am hoping to do is tell you that not everyone in the public school setting is as evil as your frequent generalizations make people like me out to be. I'd rather the two of us be united as fellow soldiers for Christ, working in our respective professions to use our platforms for his cause. I encourage you to continue to use your platform to advance the gospel, but please be mindful that the language you are using in your message or on public schools damages the credibility of Christians in my profession with zero consideration of the work we put in for Christ. Respectfully, Jared Schonert. Jared, I'm just going to let your email stand on its own. Appreciate your feedback. I'm sure there are other people in this audience that feel the way that you do, and I'm fine letting you have the last word on the conversation, and I wish you well. You'll get no argument out of me other than the arguments I've already made. So, thank you, Jared, for your note. Let's go next to Taylor. Do we have time? Yeah. In this feminist society we live in, it can be really hard for women, especially young women, to understand how to live in their feminine energy God gave us. I'm wondering if you could give us a picture of what godly femininity looks like and how to teach this to others. This has been on my mind lately as I watch a good friend go through a bad breakup. She really wants a traditional relationship and to find a man that cherishes and pursues her, but she has not connected the dots that she will not get there by shacking up and acting like a wife before she's made one. This is such a common scenario now, and I'm curious for some wisdom on it. Again, that's from Taylor. Well, Todd, between the two of us, we're currently raising, or have raised, 6 women, right?
Yes.
So the number one piece of advice that I would give is that we need, as fathers, to let our girls know that as feminine women, they are also made in the image of God. That God refers to himself in the masculine, and when he creates his first Imago Dei masterpiece, it's a man, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that his only Imago Dei masterpiece?
No.
No. He later creates another one, a woman. And the man looked at her and said, whoa, man, that's an old joke. Sorry. Anyway, the point being, Moses goes so far as to give a unique creative affirmation to women. It's the first time, as far as I know, in recorded human history, that a religious work it says that women have equal worth and value to men. When Moses says he created them, male and female, in his image, he created them in the book of Genesis. So the first thing, the nurturing, the feminine characteristics, needs, and desires also reflect the image of your Creator. Also reflect the desires that God has. So the instincts I have as a man to protect and defend, those are instilled in me every bit as much as an image bearer of God, as your feminine instincts are as well. That's the first thing we need to start with. This idea that you don't need to become like a man, you don't need to forsake being a woman in order to truly have your sense of worth, but that you are made in the image of God, and those feminine instincts that you have, they come from your Creator. They reflect His image as well. That's the first thing I'd start with. Todd, what about you?
Well, the first thing I'd start with has nothing to do with the differences between men and women per se. What's clearly lacking in this, and understandably so, because when you want something so badly, and that thing that you want is a good, God-ordained thing, why wouldn't you crave it? But you require patience. Listen, I wanted the same thing badly too as a man. I got married at 29, I think. If you want to do it right, you've simply got to understand that it's going to be in God's timing and not yours. And I can have, there's not a one of us, male or female, whether we're talking about marriage or any other thing, that doesn't struggle with that. We want things, even the good things, when we want them. You're going to have to be patient. I know that's hard. I understand. Get uncomfortable, but that is what it is.
Anything else you think needs to be added to this? That we should address it when we come back?
We could take the whole segment.
All right, let's make sure we don't shortchange this answer. We'll have maybe some more to say about it when we return as well. Stay tuned. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, brought to you by our friends over at Backyard Butchers. If you're looking for the best meat out there to grill this summer, look no further than Backyard Butchers. It's a Texas-based company, people who fear God, love America, dedicated to delivering the best deals in the market on high-quality beef. Your box will include all born and raised American beef from ranches right here in the heartland of America. All right, so we're talking stuff that's grass-fed, grain-finished. It's absolutely delicious. The meat does taste amazing, and you can save an extra 20% off your entire order if you go to backyardbutchers.com and use the discount code DACE. 20% off at backyardbutchers.com using the discount code DACE. And when you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off and free shipping. backyardbutchers.com/DACE. Again, that's backyardbutchers.com/DACE. All right. You guys ready to continue on here on a Feedback Friday?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, did we have anything else to say about advice? The reason why I started with dads is because that's the initial masculine role model in the home for the young woman. Okay? And if he does not do his job affirming her femininity, and part of that, by the way, is providing security for her, making her feel safe, okay? Loved, all right? Those are the needs a woman has, for example. If he does not provide those things, she will then go to men who will, other men that will provide them for her. That's why I started with the dad. That dad needs to, daddy-daughter dates. It's okay to cuddle when they're young, especially, okay? He needs to be daddy, okay? And he needs to affirm her in her femininity so that when creeper dude comes along a little bit later on in life, okay, he doesn't use that as a pathway into doing things that are going to break her heart. And that's why I started with daddy, affirming her femininity, okay? Not I wish I had a son or anything of that kind of crap, okay? All right? But that you've been given a very special honor, okay? A very precious little lamb, okay? And that your job is to tend to and to shepherd that lamb. And a good shepherd feeds sheep and shoots wolves. Okay? And that's why I started with the dads.
When I was talking about patience, not necessarily feminine, but the one explicitly feminine thing I will talk about is listen, I've got 4 daughters, and I've seen it bloom in them, certainly in my wife, how the wedding's going to look like, a vision for what that day looks like, and characteristics your husband would have, all good things. But Steve has long said about a lot of different things, closed hand, open hand. Might I suggest that maybe your closed hand, and there's a lot of important things on there, but maybe it's got too many things in there. You've got to widen where you cast and how you cast the net, and be open to it looking as this is all things with God, not quite how you thought. I did this once with my sister earlier in her life about, and I explained this to Steve in another context recently. I don't know what we were talking about, but she has an aversion for smoking cigarettes. Fine, understandable. But I said, there may be like this guy who's smokes cigarettes, tats up his arms, looks pretty rough, but is as saved and righteous as you could find in a husband, and is looking for somebody just like you're looking for him. And what if you just have created this world for yourself where you just can't see it anymore? And I think a lot of us do that with a lot of things, relationships and otherwise. So I think you need to look hard at yourself about that, and like, who will you let in? What does a godly man really look like?
Amen. Let's continue on. Clay says, my wife is an ER nurse and incredibly smart and hardworking. I trust her opinion on just about everything when it comes to the medical field. However, we had our first baby 4 months ago, and we are currently taking our daughter to her routine monthly checkups. I've listened to all of the conversations on the show about vaccines, the vaccine schedule for infants now, the effects these jabs can have on infants, etc., and I've tried relaying this information to my wife. Needless to say, it has caused a lot of tough conversations that usually end up with no solution. She believes most of the vaccines are necessary, and I'm now a skeptic of them after what COVID did to the world. Side note, neither one of us got the COVID poison jabs, and my wife even got a religious exemption approved by her hospital at the time. They were mandating them. I know you've mentioned them before, but can you give me and others who may be in my situation some resources again that have specific studies showing that these vaccines can indeed be harmful to babies? I appreciate the way this show pursues truth in every situation, and thanks again for considering my question. So this is more your frame of reference here, okay?
Yeah.
RFK Jr., I do know, challenges this and points out whenever he can, they can never produce any studies showing that these have actually any good, any worth either, okay? So, and he's won how many bets on that? He's offered people and they've never presented any. But here's what I would say, Clay, and then I'll hand it to you, Todd, because this is your wheelhouse. In terms of the marriage dynamic with your wife, okay? Begin with a place of agreement. Your wife already agrees with you that not everything they want to inject us with is something we should let them inject us with. She already agrees with you, right? Okay. And in fact, your wife, as someone in the medical field resisting the COVID jabs at a time of global panic and everything else, your wife said no to the most difficult shot of them all to have said no to. Okay. So I would start by giving her credit for that and say, sweetie, we're in agreement. We're both starting from the same premise. We neither one of us took that genetic serum. We neither one of us did. And you showed incredible bravery as a medical professional that stood up against your own industry to say, yeah, I'm getting an exemption. I don't want to take that shot. So we both agree that there should be more skepticism about what they recommend. All I'm simply suggesting is that this might not be the first time they've ever done something like this. It could be. It could be the first time. It could be this was a rare panic. Everybody panicked. Everybody lost their minds. The whole world did. That is possible. But it's also possible that they've done something like this before. Shouldn't we at least check, since we're talking about, the most precious thing in our lives right now, our baby, shouldn't we at least be willing to check that this wasn't just a one-off with a lot of the same people that have been in charge of this system for how many decades? I'd start there, okay, from a position of agreement, because she does share your premise. She's frankly acted on it in a way braver than you by going against her own field of industry. So I just wanted to say that about the dialogue and the intermarital dynamic here. But Todd, what would you say to him when it comes to resources on this?
Well, RFK, and I can't remember the name of his website off the top of my head.
Children's Health Defense?
Yes, that's it, yes. And then there's obviously on the show, Dell, Bigtree, Highwire, all kinds of resources there. There's a new book that is popular amongst people I respect. I haven't read it yet, Turtles All the Way Down, that addresses this kind of thing. But this is hard. Listen, when I was working at the Register, and a lot of young women who were younger than I was and about to have their first baby and knew my wife's stance on this, asked us questions about this and natural childbirth. But you could just always at the back, well, if you're having your baby at home, what if an accident happens? What if there's an emergency? That's always the premise that they start with, and they just won't shake. Regarding vaccination, I think ask yourself just some reason-based questions. Where is all this disease coming from? We have more hygiene, sanitation, dietary benefits than ever before. That's not true all over the world, of course, but here, if you don't get vaccinated, what's going to happen? Where's it going to come from? And regarding the fear of people who get vaccinated, a doctor flat told me, I don't think I'd want my kid sitting next to yours. And listen, he's a doctor. He's not dumb. And I said, but your kid's vaccinated. What are you afraid of? Mm-hmm. See, the logic falls. Go to polio, the big bad, the one that really is kind of the example everybody uses, scares people. But in terms of there's a Wuhan story behind that too, because it wasn't that one just wasn't, it was coming after kids. That's the scariest part. But it wasn't like a thief in the night necessarily either. It had to do a lot to do with summer and congregating around very public swimming pools and things like that. There were things that you could identify that were not like, God, either we vaccinate or it's chaos. Also, do many people know that more than 90% of people, I can't remember the exact percentage in the 90s, no matter who they were, kid or otherwise, who got the polio virus just had the symptoms of the common cold. Now, if it was bad for a kid, it was bad. As Steve said, there's no reason to lie about the truth. I'm willing to be open about the truth. The other side isn't. The propagandists, the big pharma, they aren't. They won't tell you that. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot more. So just look it in the eye, and then listen. I don't know what to tell you. I understand why this is a hard decision if you and your wife end up on the other side. I really, really do. Unfortunately, a lot of men and women, I understand why they didn't ask themselves any questions about this before they got married. And then in many ways, it just makes it so much harder once you're already there. Mm-hmm. But, there's more people asking these questions, thank God, than ever before, because folks, this is the whole thing. The whole thing is a scam. Your kid does not. Your kid in America, in suburban, whatever, maybe in the middle of Africa. Okay, but your kid does not need these.
I agree with Todd's sentiment and it was what Trump was saying on his call with
your wife's a nurse,
RFK.
so what are you guys doing?
So we are of one mind on this. We do a very, very limited and researched vaccination schedule. We do not do the recommended 586 vaccines right out the womb, like the FDA or whatever CDC recommends. We do the vaccine-friendly plan, and I cannot remember the name of the doctor. That's a good book, a good resource for you. And then finding, if you do want to decline some of these, we recommended Anna when she was going through this as well with her practice to find a functional medicine. And now I think Anna is going to the same one that we go to, a functional medicine practice.
She got kicked out of her other clinic for not taking all 500 of these shots or whatever that is. Yeah,
there is another factor here. I'm sorry. And if the medical establishment was being honest, they would actually bring this up, but it's inconvenient. Guys, we've got 11 million illegals in this country now.
Yeah.
Do you think they're up to date on their? So if you're living in a community, that they've bussed these illegals to, the math may be different for you on this question. And I don't know, Todd he just said, if you're living in Africa, the math may be different. But if you're living in a community where they've bussed all of these people who are bringing with them, again, this is xenophobic central here. No, it's just a reality. They're not in the same health that we are. They're not in the same immune space that we are in this country. The math may be different for you as well.
Our good friend Shannon Joy is a great resource on this too, because that was also somebody that I referred my own daughter to as well. So she does a lot of work on this. I mean, it's way more of a primary focus of her show than it is ours. So I would also urge you to check her out too. I mean, she does phenomenal work on this.
For sure.
Also, you want to check out Focus on the Family. They've got a podcast right now with their director, Jim Daly. Every episode designed to help you confidently guide your loved ones through the unique challenges faced by today's Christian families. And of course, Focus has decades of trusted and compassionate stories of redemption as part of their credibility. It's one of the landmark ministries that we have within Christianity here in the last century or so. So you can listen, learn, apply, and thrive in Christ. You can check it out now on your favorite podcast platform. Visit FocusOnTheFamilyWithJimDaly.com. Focus on the Family with Jim Daly, DALY. FocusOnTheFamilyWithJimDaly.com. Start making a difference in your family's life today. Again, that's Focus on the Family with Jim Daly.com. All right, let's continue on here with Feedback Friday. I saw this post on an Indiana Fever page. Now, that's the team that Caitlin Clark is on, correct?
Yes.
I would like to think it's not true, but it is. Consistent with what you guys have been talking about. I would like to believe that guys like you and Whitlock are wrong, but maybe I'm blind. In the words of WNBA great Candace Wiggins, daughter of MLB infielder Alan Wiggins, after her sudden and unexpected premature retirement from professional basketball at the peak of her career, quote, I wanted to play more WNBA seasons, but the experience didn't lend itself to my mental state. It was a depressing state in the WNBA. It's not watched. Our value is diminished. It can be quite hard. I also didn't like the culture inside the WNBA, and without revealing too much, it was toxic for me. My spirit was being broken. Being heterosexual and straight, being vocal in my identity as a straight woman was huge. People were deliberately trying to hurt me all of the time. I would say 98% of the women in the WNBA are lesbians. It was a conformist type of place. There was a whole different set of rules they could apply to you. There was a lot of jealousy and competition, and we're all fighting for crumbs. The way I looked, the way I played, those things contributed to the tension. I've never been called the B word so many times in my life as I was my rookie season there. I'd never been thrown to the ground so much, never played with people who were obviously trying to hurt me that often. The message was, we want you to know we don't like you. I was proud to be a woman, and that didn't fit well in the WNBA culture. So many people think you have to be a man, play like a man to get respect. I was the opposite, end quote. And Lewis is the one who sent us that email, who found that quote from Candace Wiggins. Todd, what do you think? I mean, you've got professional track and field and women's soccer is not at the level of basketball, but she has potential Olympic potential if in at least one of those pursuits that she could run into this, may even run into this now. Although she's in the Southeastern Conference, it's probably not as prevalent as she was playing out west or out east, but it's still there.
There's been nothing in her experience in either sport like this, but professional soccer is just as bad in this regard as, at least on the U.S. women's national team. I can't speak for the whole NWSL. But yeah, it's a problem there as well. And Steve and I have different sensibilities about how the Caitlin Clark thing turns out, but I don't have any disagreement about this as the state of the league. I simply think Caitlin Clark really, really loves basketball, and she is a tough, salty SOB. And so far, despite the rough start, she's already set countless rookie records. But yeah, this is hard. You're going to have to transcend it. You're going to have to be willing perhaps to expose it, and hopefully the next generation has a better chance.
Amen. All right, we are going to break for the weekend. We're going to stick around to overtime for subscribers. For the rest of you, we'll see you on Monday. Hope you have a great weekend. Until then, Romans 8:28.